Good morning. I'm waiting for my host. Look like we have some technical problems. She'll be on in a second. Happy Friday, everyone. Um, so happy to be back. It was a great week this week. I got a chance to take Devin to school. That was a little bittersweet. We got a chance to get him all packed, unpacked, and get him in his room. And actually got a chance to go up to his room for about I would say probably about a half hour, and got a chance to unpack some of his stuff, and it was really neat. Hi, Faith.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm sure he didn't do the whole spiel correctly. So I am Faith Sophie, who is basketball graduate and alumni. I currently work in Brooklyn, New York, as Director of Basketball Operations and Social Media Manager. This wonderful man who already introduced himself is Schaefer Suggs, my father, former player with the New York Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals, and serves on the executive board and VP with the NFL Former Players of Chicago. Good morning, everyone. Happy F3 Friday. Let's get that banner going. There it goes. We're excited. So like he was saying, he had some eventful trips. He's been all over the country, moving our other little person to the trio into Yale. And then I've been in contact with him as well. So he's super excited. It's funny how college students get so excited about the little things like LED lights on their ceilings, and parents are more excited about everything else. So that was funny to me. I didn't get to go, of course, because we're in a pandemic and they're limited on people who can move them in. But Dad, keep on going. Tell us a little bit more about the process and the precautions that Yale took with college moving.
Very organized, very well done. We pulled up. They had movers, and they tagged all of his items to his room, and he actually simultaneously got tested. And I had to go park my car and came back, and I was able to go up to his room and get a chance to help him organize. You know how much I like to organize. I probably was organizing a little too much, so it prompted me that I had to probably leave pretty soon. But it was, again, very sweet. The rooms are absolutely beautiful. He has a room to himself. He's in a suite with 4 or 5 other guys. But he seemed to be okay. Beautiful campus, beautiful day. Definitely a memorable time in my life. It brings me back to time when you went to school, and it was really, really, really nice.
Yep, I was just trying to get some photos for you guys so you can see. If you follow him on social media, you'll know. Here's one. Here he goes. Moving in, little water bottle. That's his dorm. Yeah, exciting. It's exciting. I know we had our episode last Friday, empty nesting. We did some cool reruns because we're getting close to the U.S. Open is out here in New York, so people are starting to feel that magic that's going on over here with all the tennis tournaments. So we played our rerun of Chris Eubanks on Monday, and Wednesday and welcome back Connie Carberg, the Mama Jet, first female NFL scout in history. So that was another great show. So a lot of great guests we brought to you guys again this week. And today we just thought that we would kind of dive into something that all of us are witnessing right now with the news, ESPN. Every time we change the channel, sports is at the middle of politics once again. We are, I think, towards the second round of playoffs in the NBA. WNBA is nearing their playoffs. NHL is starting. I don't really know what the NHL is doing. Baseball, tennis, everybody's in the move again. We got sports back. We're starting to figure out a little bit about the pandemic. But we're going to dive a little bit into that. But we welcome back our F3 family. To those who are new, welcome. Shoot us a wave, a like, a comment. We are all open to interacting with our viewers. Our goal is to use our stories and our faith to strengthen the family core of our viewers and those around us. For those of you tuning in, we really appreciate you. Once again, we have a website, faithfamilyfocus.net, where you can get blogs, bios, any past shows, as well as access to our Faith Family Focus mugs, which I hope everyone has. A lot of our guests have them, so we hope you guys have them on deck with your tea, your coffee for the day for this wonderful Friday. Today is our 46th episode. Exciting, crazy, can't believe it's 46 episodes already of Faith Family Focus. One thing we take pride in this show is an open door policy with our viewers. We like everyone to kind of see who we are, see the vulnerable side of the Suggs family, and we try to be as open and share as much as possible with all of you because we truly are a family. So today we thought we'd give you an inside look about how we kind of talk through conversations within our homes. And we are more than willing to discuss the hardships that are going around us and impacting everyone else. So right now we're witnessing a time of unrest in social justice. We're once again seeing another Black men kind of bridging the politics and sports around us. On August 23rd, a Black man, Jacob Blake, was shot 7 times in the back in front of his 3 children. He's in critical condition, and he's paralyzed as of right now. He is, I learned this morning, handcuffed to his bed. They handcuffed a paralyzed man to his bed. I see you guys all coming in. Thank you for joining us. Today's going to be an awesome show. But yeah, so only months after the fatal killing of George Floyd, we are once again faced with another visual aggressive act between police and people of color. In the wake of an election, Black Lives Matter movement, the pandemic, sports, we're still witnessing all of this. So it's a little crazy, Dad. I mean, what are your initial thoughts?
Well, I was a little busy moving. You kind of brought me up to speed. I think it happened on my way to Yale, and when we were looking for a topic for the week, you shared with me that this would be a really good topic to at least talk through. You always have a very good perspective on it, and I'm glad we waited a couple of days before we had the show because I got a chance to listen to some really powerful videos. It was Chris Webber. I got a chance to listen to Doc Rivers. I saw Kenny Smith. Just kind of was able to kind of process everything, that has been going on over the last couple of days. It kind of brings us back to obviously the Floyd situation, but it's full circle. And I like what Chris Webber said, if not now, when? And we're in a time of impact, and there's obviously got to be some better lens, a better level of acknowledgement, a better level of acceptance that this is continuing to happen. And I am so proud of the athletes who is using this as a platform to share their voice. And just really proud of what I saw. I mean, I know the NBA, the WNBA, some of the major league teams decided to pause for a couple of days. Milwaukee Bucks were the first to speak out, but these young men, young women, have taken a really powerful stance on this narrative, and I'm just I'm just so proud of the young generation, and that you are one of them. So, yeah.
Right. So, like you touched on a little bit, Wednesday evening, the NBA Milwaukee Bucks were the first to say they were not going to play tonight, with the Orlando Magic agreeing, and soon following were the rest of the 17 to 13 teams in the NBA bubble. That same night, WNBA as well, who also leads this protest, decided that they were not going to play their games tonight, as well as the games following the next day. MLB as well. Naomi Osaka said that she no longer will play the rest of her tournament. We had her quote up here, as you can see, which is major because she is the top female tennis player as of right now. And this all happened on the 4-year anniversary of the first day Colin Kaepernick kneeled in the NFL game. So we're starting to see something 4 years later. We're starting to see the fight. We're starting to see the continuous on of the protest, of the movement. It's inspiring, but it's also one thing that I struggled with, and I think that what I want to talk about today a little bit is kind of give the inside look and lens, like you said, to the frustration, to the confusion. One of the things I struggled with and was extremely emotional with for 2 days before I presented this topic to you was that you see that we have been doing so much work. We have Black Lives Matter on every jersey. We have voices. We have constant fighting for Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. I mean, there's an immediate reaction from when George Floyd had been murdered, to sports now, and it's a visual, and people are working so hard, and we're trying to make the movement happen. And then no matter what, this happens, right? And a man is still shot 7 times in the back in front of his kids, his little boys. It's confusing. It's frustrating. The Black race, I can understand completely. I mean, that's what people need to understand is what, for me, it was hard. Is like, how do I not give up? How do you not just kind of give in to be like, this is just what it is, right? This is just what the truth is. There's no change that'll probably happen because we've been fighting, being our head against the wall. And no matter what, change isn't happening because we're opening the eyes, but people are still getting killed. People are still being shot in the back for opening a car door. I just, it's frustrating. And I think that's one of my initial feelings, my initial thoughts through it all. And it was hard for me to kind of see their boycotting, seeing this. I said, wow, that's great in unity. But at first I was like, we did all this already, right? We did all this already. What is going to change this? What is actually going to happen? And what happened was, you talked about Chris Webber, which I have his conversation here where I'll play with you guys. And this changed my perspective a lot.
Reported that 4 years ago today, in a preseason game in Wisconsin, Kaepernick first took a knee. No, this has never happened before, but I'm sure that Dr. Harry Edwards, Dr. John Carlos, Arthur Ashe, Jackie Robinson, and others have been praying for this day. Shout out to Kenny that walked off. I wanted to have a voice in here because I feel like we only had the same couple voices talking during these times. So it's very important for me to come over here. I keep hearing the question like, what's next? What's next? Well, you got to plan what's next. You have to figure out what's next. I'm very proud of the players. I don't know the next steps. Don't really care what the next steps are because the first steps are to garner attention. And they have everybody's attention around the world right now. Then leadership and others will get together and decide the next steps. So we know it won't end tomorrow. We know that there's been 1 million marches and nothing will change tomorrow. We know vote. We keep hearing vote. Everybody vote. But I'm here to speak for those that are always marginalized. Those that live in these neighborhoods where we preach and tell them to vote and walk away. Charles Barkley came to my high school. Just seeing him in the locker room, seeing his hands and his body, that inspired me. You can't see something. You can't be something until you see it. And when I tell you the little kids that have called me upset, I have a godson that has autism and I just had to explain to him why we aren't playing. I have young nephews I've had to talk to about death before they've even seen it in a movie. If not now, when? If not during a pandemic and countless lives being lost. If not now, when? That's all I just want to hear from the rest of the night while everybody's pontificating and thinking and soapboxing and all of that. We know nothing is going to change. We get it. Martin Luther King got shot and risked his life. Medgar Evers, if we've seen this and all of our heroes constantly taken down, we understand it's not going to end. But that does not mean, young men, that you don't do anything. Don't listen to these people telling you don't do anything because it's not going to end right away. You are starting something for the next generation and the next generation to take over. Do you have to be smart? Yes. Do you have to make sure that you have a plan? Yes. Do you have to be articulate about that plan? Yes. All of those things. But that's what you're going to do. They're professionals. They know how to be the best of themselves. And so I applaud it. I applaud it because it is the young people. It is the young people leading the way, and I applaud them.
What do you think, Deb?
Powerful words. That was one of the videos that really resonated with me. Over my many years of living, watching the civil rights movement, the same conversation about change we were having then. But people were taking action, people were speaking out. And over time, you saw some progress. And I am so happy to hear Chris say, don't stop, don't give up. Because change tomorrow is a result of action today. And I love what I'm seeing with the young athletes. I love what I see in spite of the criticism that some of them are getting. I had a friend of mine say, these guys are just doing the showboat and just, get media attention. But these guys, why do they get media attention? These are professional athletes. They are taking a stand on the injustice of what they are finally in their lives experiencing, something that I've seen most of all my life. And for the viewers out there who know me very, very well, a lot of times the conversation is very uncomfortable to have. If you didn't grow up with the same lens that I grew up with, the same lens that you grew up with, it's kind of hard. But I do appreciate a lot of the conversations I've had with my friends, my white friends, who were willing to listen and try to understand, because unless you live in your shoes, in my shoes, you don't know. One of the things that Doc Rivers said, it's so frustrating that, I have to have a conversation with Devin about how to act. When the police pulls him over, where white dads are not having that conversation with their kids, right? So we can go on and on and on and talk a little bit about what we see and what we have visibility to, and what I experienced, what you've experienced. But there has to be a willingness to understand. And what's hard is the narrative is being deflected by perpetuation of fear. And what we see is we're perpetuating fear to try to discount the real narrative about what's happening. Because a lot of times I hear, when I have this conversation with somebody, the first thing they talk about is the riot. But we're not talking about what that's frustrating. What does that look like? Why are they so frustrated? And I think that's one of your questions. How does that make you feel when you see that? Because it is confusing. You said the same thing. When you look at the Republican convention last night, it's all about fear. It's all about fear. When you watch the 13th Amendment, which everyone would recommend anybody who has not seen that, see that, it was all about fear. And I really love the fact that young people like yourself, professional athletes, college athletes, are taking a chance to really, really continue. And don't get frustrated. Don't give up. Because one person at a time, one conversation at a time, we got to continue doing. We may not see it in our lifetime. I may not see it in my lifetime, but you may see it in your lifetime. You may see it in your grandchildren's lifetime. You got to continue to have this conversation. So, I'm just sitting back as this old guy who this is my second time around, Faith. I've seen it. And I do have hope. I do have hope because I've seen over the 60 plus years of my life, I've seen it get better. But sometimes more things get better before they stay the same, right? That's where we are right now.
Right. And I think, yeah, it was hard. And after I had saw that video, it was more like, this isn't about, and I tweeted about it as well. And one of the things when I had a discussion with somebody, it's not about the actual boycott. It's not the stand. Yes, they're trying to make a stand. They're trying to gain attention for this cause. They want change to happen. But it's also they're creating a perfect example, a narrative for Black kids and Black children who are looking up to them. Like Chris Webber said, Charles Barkley came to his locker room and he made it real for them. That they could be that person. They can make change. They have the opportunity. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is these kids are already 10 feet behind the starting line and they don't have accessibility or visibility to these people. So when people like LeBron James and Naomi Osaka, Serena Williams, and more are putting on these great examples of fighting for them and fighting for their rights and fighting for their opportunities in the future, that is so powerful and important to these kids. And so we talk about, I know you had a discussion with someone, it was they're showboating. They're trying to gain attention. Yes, they're trying to gain attention for a cause because a person was shot 7 times by a person who probably should not have a gun because he was unqualified to be a police officer, because he was a bike cop, and because he was so scared of somebody because of their skin color. Like, Breonna Taylor was shot in her bed. Tamir Rice was shot because he had a toy gun. It's the color of somebody's skin that you have to tell these kids, because you're a little bit darker, you're terrifying to these people. That's horrifying. And it's just hard. It's terrifying to witness. It's terrifying to have a brother, a father, and in any moment it could be them. It could be me. You don't have no idea. And that is, I think, what people are missing. This is more than a boycott, right? This boycott has happened only once before, right? Bill Russell, I have it right here. In 1961. And the reason he walked out was because when they were playing an exhibition game in Kentucky, they would not serve the Black players on his team. That's Bill Russell. This really isn't changing. I'm sure a lot of us have been to Kentucky. And we know. This is so much bigger than the boycott. This is so much bigger than the sports. This is showing that these people, these kids, these athletes are playing this sport because they love. But they're willing to give up their paycheck. They're willing to give up the thing they love to fight for something more, which is their life and the lives of others who look like them. And that is what I'm seeing. And that is why I was so inspired by what Chris Webber said. And when Kenny the Jet walked off the set, and LeBron James and other athletes are now putting together a coalition to try to gain money to give back to people so that these kids learn to vote, can have accessibility to education. This is so much bigger, guys. Like, we're witnessing history right now, but they're setting such a great example for everyone on unity, togetherness. They're organized. They have the Milwaukee Bucks, the moment they postponed the game, they boycotted the game, they were on the phone with the district attorney in Milwaukee. They were on the phone with the people in Kenosha. They were talking. They said, what can we do to get this pushed forward? What can we do to change, make something happen? What can we do? Because I know you have a lot of things on your hands. And that was my thing, Dad. What do you think about the boycott? Initially, they were not going to play. And now we know the Lakers and the Clippers are not playing the rest of the season, which is huge because the Lakers and the Clippers were who we were debating on who was going to win the NBA season, right? Lakers and the Clippers will not be returning to the bubble. They will not be playing. The rest of the teams will be. WNBA will be continuing soon. What do you think? Is the boycott still effective now that we're starting again? What's more effective, the Clippers and the Lakers way about it, or the other teams who are returning to use their platform to raise awareness?
Both are. You know, people have to become uncomfortable to change. And the platform that we're presenting is making people feel uncomfortable who has not otherwise had been uncomfortable. And I like both because they're both effective. They're both effective. And I'm trying to kind of think about if I were in their shoes, plant at the same time, I know that I would be right there with them. You know, understanding, again, if you ever lived in your shoes, in a person's shoes all their lives, you know, we see this every day. And some people don't have that same lens.
Right.
We can't understand why. And the other question, comment was, kids, black kids are getting shot by gang members in Chicago. Why isn't LeBron, why isn't these superstars rallying for that cause?
Statistically, because I do my statistic background,
Well, there's a reason I'm asking the question.
right, white on white crime is higher than black on black crime. And at the end of the day, black on black crime is a result of systemic racism, lack of education, lack of funding, lack of taking care of these kids, right? It's a cycle in people who are in these communities. It's a cycle, right? These people result to gang violence and gangs because they need to survive. They need to take care of their families, take care of their mothers, because drugs were put into these communities. And because the war on drugs took away black men from these communities. And now that these black men are brought back to these communities, they have incarceration records, which people don't hire people who were incarcerated. So now we're starting to see a reoccurring cycle, right? So we want to talk about black on black crime. There's only been 12 days in 2020 when a police officer has not shot or killed a person. 12 days. Just because someone is wrong, a criminal, and breaking the law does not mean they deserve to die. That they don't deserve to die. This is America. Right to trial. A right to an attorney to fight your case. Because it's America. There's a reason why Australia does not have any police brutality issues, because they don't have guns. The police officers don't have guns. The people don't have guns. So nobody's getting shot. No schools, churches, Christian events are being shot up. We need to pay attention. And my biggest thing, and I know I'm like, we want to talk about black and white crime, we want to talk about white and white crime. That is people's favorite reasoning, right? Like, oh, we're fighting for these police officers to they're shooting black people. Well, black people kill each other every day. Actually, they don't. Yes, there are people out there who are shooting their own people. Yes, there are people who don't understand the morals and what used to be within gangs, right? Yes, but I promise you, I looked at the statistics, and I will gladly put them up on our site later. White people are killing more white people than black people are killing black people. At the end of the day, that is what the statistics are. So when people present that, not only is it tone deaf, it's extremely disrespectful, because you are once again joining the All Lives Matter idea and initiative, where you're like, okay, I'm going to the funeral, I'm looking at the person who died, and I'm like, hey, my mom died too. Like, no, it's not about you. It's about the person who's hurting right now. The person is going through a traumatic event right now. How can you help that person? How can you be a good Christian and show grace and help that person? That is what the issue is. So when people present that argument, first of all, I don't even talk to them. I'm like, all right, you know what? Our friendship is over, because you don't see the pain that my people are going through. You don't see the pain that my father and brother would have to witness so they get pulled over one day, or the fear they get that my dad has after he dropped his son off at an Ivy League school. He still has to be scared for him. Like, this is so much bigger. So, yeah, great comment, Dad. Great point. Because that is something that has been, they would love to bring Chicago up into it, especially. But let's not even get started about Chicago's issue with redlining, Cabrini Green, etc.
Yeah,
but
it gets back to the social injustice in the streets. And I know that you had some words around that, because I asked you about that last night, and I wanted our viewers to listen to your comment, because that was powerful. It may be uncomfortable with some, but it's powerful and it's true. And I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. But one thing that you said, I asked you, I said, what do you think about the boycott? Do you think it's effective to come back? One thing that for me, when I had first thought about the boycott was, yes, we're showing unity, togetherness, we're boycotting, we're showing everyone this is bigger than sport, we're taking away, right? And we worked so hard for sports, right? And it wasn't a pandemic that took away sports, it was racism. That's what's crazy about it all. Racism took away sports now. But the one thing I thought, and Draymond Green kind of vocalized it, and a lot of people are saying, a lot of Black people are saying it. He said, I stand with my brothers in the bubble, continue to stand for what's right, and fight for oppression of Black people. But I do hope they understand that we too have a job to do, which is continue to building that very platform we are using to speak for our people. He's right, right? That's why I said both sides are right. Black people in the WNBA, the NBA, the MLB, etc., right, have a great platform because everybody's eyes are on them every night in that bubble. Everybody's eyes are on them, right? So they have a right. The back of their jerseys have.
I'm still here.
Right, I just can't see you.
Go ahead. Yeah. She'll be back on in a second. Little connection issues. A powerful topic. Powerful topic. Here she comes.
Right. So like I was saying, I agree with Draymond Green on that point because both platforms are beautiful. These athletes, and that's what's wonderful about athletes in general, is they have the opportunity to use their voice and use their skill and their talent to open the doors for other people who aren't as fortunate to have that platform, that visibility to the world, right? And I think that you boycott, you're doing the right thing. You don't boycott, you're doing the right thing, because at the end of the day, Black people win on both sides of it, because you have already gotten to a place in society where all the eyes on you and you have such a strong voice and strong talent that people will listen to you. And that is what's so wonderful about it. So that was one of my things. And that was a major conversation. Remember, Kyrie Irving said, I'm not going to the bubble because I'm not, he said, I'm not going to dance for the and jive. That's what he said. And Black people know what he means. But was he wrong? I don't know. It's his opinion.
Okay. Very effective in the late 60s. And for these young athletes like yourself, like WNBA, NFL, to be able to appreciate the impact that Muhammad Ali and Jim Brown, Lou Alcindor, and Bill Russell made and the stand that they took. And they had a lot more to lose. They were not making the kind of money that these kids are making.
Right.
They literally took
contracts.
Right. And then Muhammad Ali suffered. He actually lost his title. He had to come back 8 years later. So it is effective. And you look back at, if you look at it, Colin Kaepernick, his app, when it happened, did we really realize the impact on history that he made? It was the same type of impact that Muhammad Ali made when he decided he wasn't going to go and fight in Vietnam, where he was not treated fairly here at home. And why should he go fight?
Right.
So boycotting has been around for a long time.
And it's funny you say Colin Kaepernick. You talk about just now Roger Goodell is saying we should have listened to Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
Well, we all told you that. because we told you this was going to bite you in the butt later on, because now Nike sponsors Colin Kaepernick and people are Colin Kaepernick, and now you see players aren't playing, right? NFL teams didn't practice the other day. They didn't practice because they wanted to spend the day to reflect and talk about what they can do for change. The NFL did that. The NFL, and that's going to bring you to my next question, which we talked about when we had the college football during the pandemic conversation, is if the NFL does not play football this season, yes, to a pandemic, but also to opting out due to social injustice, what will that do to this country? What do you think?
Yeah. We're at a place where people are going to feel uncomfortable. Not having football, not being able to watch football, it's making people feel uncomfortable. And now they're going to look at why they're not playing football. And I think it will be very impactful. I don't know if it will happen. There might be some players that may take a stance. But we feel.
I agree with you. I think that it's hard to know. The NFL is different than the NBA. NFL is not guaranteeing contracts. NFL has next person up mentality. There's no replacing.
Right.
The
one person, two people don't make a difference like the WNBA. I mean, that's it would have to be a selected group of players, high-profile players, high-profile white players, and black players, correct? That would probably need to happen for it to really make an impact.
And I think that one of the main things that I talk about, and one of my only criticisms of a boycott or any of this is, okay, but what is our solution to the problem? What is our plans? Like Chris Webber said, what is our goal? What are we going to do to try to make change happen in the smallest way we can in some sort of way, right? Milwaukee Bucks already did the best way. They got in contact with the government officials. They have already started putting things in place to figure out, right? What are we doing to make a change happen, right? And that's one of the hardest things to do. Black people and people know, okay, this is wrong. What's going on? It needs to change. This needs to happen. But what are we going to do? What can you possibly do from your end to try to make the system change? We say vote. Voting is so important. Yes, vote for our national election, but also the people who are working in your cities. That will impact you, right? That is bigger than the overall. Yes, we realize that when you vote wrong or you don't vote at all, how it impacts the country is a trickle-down effect. Yes.
Right.
And I heard someone say that voting more is like a form of transportation. You're choosing a bus to get on, right, to get to a destination.
I like
you may not like the bus. You may not agree with the bus. But if the bus is supporting the things that can make change happen, support your morals, and in the end, show a great outcome for this country, you may have to get on that bus for a second. For 4 years, get on that bus. And in 4 years, we'll choose again which bus you want to get on, right? And that is the one thing, is in America, we have the right to vote, right? Wednesday was Women's Equality Day, the day that women gained the right to vote. But that day and that amendment, the 19th Amendment, the 19th Amendment, did not guarantee and fix the issues that was happening to people of color who wanted to vote, with the literacy testing and the lack of poll stations, right? This is so much bigger, right? You have the opportunity now to vote. As we can see, it's getting harder and harder, but to do your research and try to figure out what you can do to make change happen, that is so important. That is what these boycotts, it's not just showing that this is bigger than sport, it's just making people look inside and be like, hey, I need to register to vote. Hey, I need to do this. I need to open my eyes to start reading more, listening more, watching more on what's going on around me. I think that is what this impact is. It's bigger than just, we're not going to play because we want to fix this. They're kind of just stopping the world. And because they're stopping the world and we're hitting the pause button again on sports, even though we're already still on a pause button due to a pandemic, this pause button is giving people the opportunity to kind of really educate themselves on what they can do personally to to try to make change happen and try to level the playing field for people who have been discriminated against for years and years.
Right.
So
we don't think, it's like, you hear the narrative about, it happened before me, it happened before my time.
mhm,
I'm not going to be blamed for the things that happened. We need to move forward, right? But you bought the house. You go in the house, and the house needs to be fixed.
yep,
Okay? We need to fix it. It's your house, you need to fix it. And that's where it starts. Everyone
Yeah.
needs to work on starting fixing this. Whether it's the plumbing, whether it needs to be fixed. Take responsibility because now it's your house.
yeah,
Right, it's our house. White and black, it's our house. It needs to be fixed.
yeah. And I just want to know, when we speak a lot about our Christianity and our religion and the things in our relationship with God, I just want to know, and like I said earlier, the definition of grace is loving people and forgiving people and understanding people the way God would treat
Right.
you, would want God to treat you. And I want to know, a lot of people in this world think that they're doing enough by just reading and like trying to educate themselves. Do more. Find out how you can do more. Instead of talk, listen. Right? You have had many conversations with people that I would have never had conversations with. And I know, because you are like the bridge between so many people, but you tell me a lot of things. There's just so much ignorance and lack of education on this topic for a lot of people. And that's an issue, because we're at the point now where everyone should be on the same page.
Right. Well, you choose. And I think that comes from your grandmother, to be transcendable. And sometimes, you come my way 50%, I come your way 50%.
Yep.
But I think in order to make a change, sometimes you got to go 75%.
Yeah.
You might have to go, and you'll be surprised. Maybe some of the perceptions, the racism, the perceptions, the prejudice, and I've seen it in my lifetime. Some of my friends, that you just, by having that conversation with them about your life and articulate it with grace, you find that you change a heart. And then, like you said, we're all God's kids. We're all born the same heart, right? And I think, everybody has some good syndrome. Unfortunately, some people just are so fearful. I think it's a disease. The first part of a disease beginning is acceptance. That you have that disease. Acknowledge that. And so that's why I have been able to do that. I have very seldom had conversations with somebody and go, you know what? We need to stop talking. Okay? I may say, okay, I'm going to refer that person to maybe the 13th Amendment. Well, I'm going to refer that person, but I won't look back with that person. Because that's the stuff that we have to do. We can't give up the conversation. And I don't care if the person is wearing a coat over their head. They got to take that coat off. You can still have that conversation. It may not change them, but you've got to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And I think with that being said, that's where it starts.
Yeah. And I think that all the stuff that's going on in the last 2 days, and we do know that the games will resume, but for most teams, but this boycott, this attention to detail is sparking those conversations.
Yeah.
And it's making people talk again, because we went through this with George Floyd, and it kind of tapered off a little bit, like it always does. But we have visibility to people trying to add more. And I remember I told you this. I said, what happened? They were like changing all like certain rules, and like we switched names of football teams. And I was like, this is great, but like, what are we doing to fix the government, to fix the Constitution that was written by people who owned slaves. What are we going to do to try to constantly evolve this country so it can be great for everyone? Right?
That's key.
Like, I just can't help but understand that, like, all these other countries are doing all right. Right? Like, yes, there's still racism, but they're out and about. They are solving their pandemic. They are, right? We have an issue in this country where we are supposed to be advanced. We're supposed to be a first world country. We're a first world country with third world personality. We have a lot of things we need to fix, and I think that starts with the youth. And the youth is now able to see, and they have visibility to people fighting for their rights, fighting for equality, fighting for a change, because change needs to happen. And change doesn't mean like completely disregard. People don't understand when people say dismantle the police. They're not saying get rid of the police completely. What they're saying is, one, take away a lot of the money. There should be reasons why New York City has 800 tanks in New York City on an island. It's an island, right? Tanks can't even go anywhere on an island. It's water. That's what I don't understand. I don't understand. What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, put this money into education. We have virtual learning right now. A lot of kids can't afford Wi-Fi. A lot of kids don't have laptops. Like, we have so much stuff we can do and fix and try to help everybody from top to bottom. But it starts with trying to start to see that maybe we should start redirecting some funds and things towards things to help others. Because right now in the cycle, there's people who can't afford things and they'll continue to not be able to afford things. There's people who can't afford things and they'll continue to afford things. And that is a cycle you can't really get out of when you are the person who can't afford things. That right there. And I can promise you this, the people who can't afford things pretty much all look the same. So this is bigger than sports. This is bigger than politics. This is dismantling and fixing a system that has been broken for years and years. And creating allies and discussions and conversations with people who don't understand and how they and loving people and love thy neighbor, right? And I'll bring that back eventually because I'm going to have a show where I talk about that. But loving thy neighbor, and that's the thing, the definition of grace. To love someone the way you wouldn't want to be loved. To forgive someone and care for someone the way you would be forgiven and cared for by God. And if you are not doing that, and you're catching yourself, or you make the statement like, well, why didn't he just listen to the police officers? You are the problem. You're missing the point, because there should be no reason why that 29-year-old man was shot in front of his 3 boys, who will now have PTSD and scarred for the rest of their lives because somebody was uncomfortable with their position in power. That's the issue. So, I think this was a great show. I do.
Your grandmother, Dorothy, would be so proud of you. And it sounds like some of her words become expressions sometimes. Your mommy would be so proud of you. Because it sounds like some of her words. Talk about righteous being graceful. Because that's what it really comes down to, you know? Let go, let God, let go, let faith, let go, let love. Is what this is all about.
Yeah. And I think that just starts with family discussions. We love having discussions on this show and showing how we talk as a family and what we say at the dinner table. And this is normal. This is what we do.
Yeah.
We discuss it all the time. So that you know that this is so important for people to have these discussions with their kids, because these kids are going to be the leaders in our society, the teachers, the police officers, the government officials, right? They're going to work at your stores, right? How we treat people is how we treat each other, and this is so important. So, once again, thank you everyone for joining us this wonderful Friday morning. I think we had a great discussion. Once again, thank you to Amazon Fire, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, and our key platform out of Phoenix, Arizona, E360 TV. Again, this is Faith Family Focus, where we're going to use our faith as a vehicle to help heal and sustain others, to strengthening your family core. And like always, and of course, let go, let God, let go, let love, let go, let faith. Everyone have a great Friday. Wear your masks, wash your hands, and we'll be back on Monday to see you guys. Everyone have a great Friday.
Bye.